All right. Hi, everyone. Great to see everyone here. My name is Ayla Paz with Local Clean Energy Alliance. Thank you so much for joining our Resilience Hub listening session kickoff meeting. Um, this is a result of so much community advocacy, and we're really looking forward to explaining more about our historic work and the purpose of the work that we're doing today and in the upcoming months, how we got here, and how you can get involved in upcoming stuff. Um, and so before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that this webinar will be recorded. We'll be providing it in an upcoming follow-up email afterwards, sometime early next week. So Hernando, can you go on to the next slide? And I will be passing it to Ashaki.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashaki Scott, and I'm with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. This is our agenda for the day. We'll start off with some introductions, so we'll get to know a little bit about who you are and share a little bit about who we are as well. Then we'll walk through the background and goals of the project. We know we'll be sharing a lot of information, but don't worry, there will be time for question and answer right after this section. Then we will take a 15-minute break to rest our eyes, get a snack, and energize for part 2. After that, we want to kick off the work by having a breakout session where we will present a few questions with regards to resilience hubs in your community. These questions will help guide the future of the work we will be doing over the next year and a half. Once we wrap up the breakouts, we will come back together to share what we learned, go over next steps, highlight upcoming events, and provide any additional information. And then we'll address any last questions before we close out. We're excited to get started. We've got a lot to cover, so let's jump in.
Next
Good
slide,
morning,
Hernando.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hernando Sanchez with the Local Clean Energy Alliance. At this time, will everybody please put their name, pronouns, organizations that they're representing or member of, what community or geographic location you're based in, and a quick comment on why did you join today. We'll leave a few minutes here so people could do that.
All right. Well, great to see everyone, seeing some familiar folks. Nice to see you, Naya. Nice to see you, Heidi. Nice to see you, Barbara. Really great to see everyone here. We can go ahead to the next slide. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Carly Oro with Emerald Cities Collaborative, and I will be going over some housekeeping before we begin. So please feel free to add any questions to the chat. We will be tracking them and we'll be addressing them either in the chat directly or during the allotted Q&A sessions. Also, we have an IT policy that does not allow any AI readers in our workshop, so we will be removing them if we do see them. But as Ayla mentioned, we will be making sure to get folks access to the slides and the workshop recording after this. Next slide. So, who are we? Our project team consists of Emerald Cities Collaborative and Local Clean Energy Alliance. Emerald Cities Collaborative is a national nonprofit network of organizations working to green our cities, build resilient regional economies, and strengthen our democracy. And by building cross-sector collaborations focused on those historically left out of the economic and community development process, we develop green infrastructure and other sustainable development projects, ensuring an equity stake for low-income communities of color in the green economy. Also on this call, I'd like to just highlight and introduce ECC's Northern California Regional Director, Avni Jamdar, and our Program Coordinator, Jennifer Loma-Lee. And with that, I will pass it to LCEA.
Thank you very much, Carly. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Guadalupe Tovar. I'm the Executive Director of the Local Clean Energy Alliance. The Local Clean Energy Alliance is the Bay Area's foremost membership organization working at the local, state, and national level to promote a clean energy future through the development and democratization of local renewable energy resources. We see these resources as key to addressing climate change, advancing social justice, and building a sustainable and resilient communities. Next slide. Great. So I want to give a very special shout out to our hosts in this program. Moving forward, we have Little Manila Rising that's based in Stockton. We have Asian Pacific Environmental Network that's based out of Oakland, actually works in Los Angeles too. And then we also have our other partners in this work, Reclaim Our Power, the Utility Justice Campaign, and Collective Resilience. So I want to see, I don't know if anyone from Little Manila is on today or Asian Pacific Environmental Network. If you are, I would love for you to come off of mute and just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I think I was put off mute. This is Irene. I'm with Little Manila Rising in Stockton. And then I think we also have Rachel on the line too.
Great.
Yeah.
Feel free to introduce yourself if you'd like, Rachel.
Oh, hello. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. But yeah, hello, my name is Rachel. I'm with Little Manila Rising, working with Irene, who just introduced themselves. I'm a community development project manager. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here and learn from everyone and also see how we could make this initiative happen.
Great. Is there anyone from Asian Pacific Environmental Network on? Okay. Okay, great. Well, you all might know Sheena. She's our contact and host for the upcoming May 22nd Oakland event. Great. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so big question, how did we get here? We're going to take a moment to talk a little bit about how we got to this moment because it is very much a pivotal moment. So next slide. Great. So the Local Clean Energy Alliance spent many years advocating for a community choice energy agency as an alternative to PG&E. Ava Community Energy is Alameda and San Joaquin Counties' electricity supplier. It's a hybrid alternative energy supplier, alternative to PG&E, in that PG&E still owns the infrastructure, the poles, the wires. You still receive a bill from PG&E, but our line item for electricity is now going to, is being provided, and the money we pay towards electricity is going to a local agency, and that's Ava Community Energy. And the way Ava Community Energy is structured is it's a not-for-profit utility company that's run by a board of directors made up of local public officials from its service territory of Alameda County and some cities within San Joaquin County. Years ago, Local Clean Energy Alliance, along with a diverse intersection of community organizations, began to advocate to Ava Community Energy to reinvest funds into local programs and projects that address community energy needs. There's even a roadmap known as the Local Development Business Plan. Most critically, we really are advocating for climate and energy resilience and creating a program to serve our communities to help us survive the many crises that our communities are currently facing. Good example is the pandemic, the extreme weather we've been experiencing, wildfires and excessive smoke in our air, power shutoffs, and who knows what's next. Next slide. Great. So in August 2024, as a result of massive community advocacy, Ava Community Energy put out a request for proposals for what is known as the Community Organizing and Capacity Building for Resilience Hubs project. So that is what we're doing and talking about today. In March 2025, Local Clean Energy Alliance and Emerald Cities Collaborative began working together on this project. This is a step in the right direction, and we look forward to continue advocacy in the future. And I just want to add that a lot of the work that we do is really to advocate for more energy democracy. And what that really means is engaging community in informing what kind of energy system we want to see and what kind of investments we want to see from our local community choice program. And so this is essentially the result of us democratizing our energy system and, our decision makers, our local decision makers that make up the board of elected officials that are the decision makers of this agency, really listening to us. So I always describe energy democracy as a two-way street where we advocate and demand and our decision makers listen and respond. And so today is really about that response. So I will now pass it to Ayla.
Next slide, Hernando, please. So yeah, thank you so much for that context, Jessica. And like Jessica mentioned, this has been the result of so much community advocacy, so much engagement and mobilizing over the years. And we're all just really excited to have this next step in our larger campaign. And so this work is part of a larger campaign about resilience hubs and uplifting the need for comprehensive resilience hub resources and funding. And so we seek to uplift community-driven solutions to energy and climate inequality in Ava Community Energy territory. And this is the result of just a lot of advocacy for these comprehensive resources and funding so the solutions are most effective. And I'll pass it to Hernando.
Great. Thank you, Ayla. So now us here at Local Clean Energy Alliance have been put in a great position with Emerald Cities Collaborative to identify and advocate this important work to continue uplifting community voices. And we're excited to bring this workshop listening session opportunity to you all. And I'll pass it to Carly.
Great, thank you. So before we go over each section of the program, we wanted to highlight our overall program timeline. So in spring 2025, which is our current phase of the project, we are in the process of collecting feedback on a community-led definition of resilience hubs. We are trying to understand community resilience needs, and we're connecting with existing hubs that are trusted within their communities. Then this summer, we will be developing a resilience readiness screening tool. And this tool will be an easy way for hubs to verify if they are eligible for technical assistance and eventually solar and storage incentives that will be available later in the program. So hubs will have access to this tool starting summer 2025 and running through until 2026, and even potentially beyond or for longer, depending on engagement and customer interest. So any interested hubs should contact me, Carly Oro, to use the tool and to get you screened for eligibility. The details of the solar and storage incentive program will be released in winter of this year, and we will utilize the community-led definition of resilience hubs and the information gathered on resilience needs and resilience hub challenges to build out this community-led incentive program. So the goal here is to use the knowledge and expertise the community has provided to build out this program that reflects community needs. So hubs will be able to apply for this solar and storage incentive program a little bit later in the program timeline. Then throughout fall 2025 and spring 2026, we will be continuously conducting community outreach and engagement. We will be hosting additional informational webinars so hubs can learn about the program requirements and the financial and technical benefits of the program itself. So these are meant for you, the hubs, to be able to understand and easily apply for the benefits that Ava wants to offer. Next slide. So technical assistance, what is that? When applying for the program, sites can take advantage of our technical assistance services. So once a site applies and is screened for eligibility, they can qualify to receive these services from the program's TA provider, NV5. They will be able to work with customers on pre-development for their projects. They can support conceptual designs, provide engineering support, conduct feasibility studies, and they can even help with third-party bid reviews. So they will have access to a database of different grants and funding mechanisms to support the project and several other services. Another benefit of using the program's TA services is that you can work with the team to secure a potential incentive reservation if your site isn't immediately ready to install your project. So there are more benefits and eligibility requirements for TA that will be released in the coming months. So definitely look out for it. Next slide. Then the next program component we have is the actual solar and storage incentive itself. So depending on how far along a site is in their installation process, they can either apply for TA, which helps with their potential solar and storage incentive, or they can apply directly for the incentive itself. So NV5 will be responsible for administering the TA, and Ava will be processing the site's application for the solar and storage incentive. So after a project has been screened for eligibility, completes all of the program's requirements, Ava will then be able to issue an incentive. So the actual timeline and structure of the incentive is still being designed. The feedback we collect today will be considered when thinking through the program design and considerations. The details will be released in winter of 2025 along with the program launch. So the structure likely will include an installation incentive as well as an ongoing connection incentive. Next slide. And with that, I will pass it to Ayla.
Great, thank you so much, Carly. And so as you can see, this is a three-step process, as Carly went over. We are currently right now in the first step, so the community outreach and site identification step. So this is public community outreach to create a community-led definition of resilience hubs in partnership with the community and trusted organizations and evaluate community needs when it comes to resilience. We're also going to be doing case studies with Susan Silber from Collective Resilience to understand sort of a theoretical framework for what resilience hubs look like and what current organizations do as resilience hubs. And our goal is to identify 50 sites for the technical assistance program through this community outreach. And then after that, the next step is the technical assistance step. So providing technical assistance to sites identified, advise them on requirements to become solar and storage ready, and connecting them to Ava Community Energy's technical assistance provider. So $2 million has been approved for this phase for technical assistance for organizations, and we'll be providing, the goal is to provide technical assistance to up to 200 sites. So really pushing 200 sites and expanding that technical assistance, like that technical assistance net. And the final step is to build out a solar and storage incentive program. So really leaning into what we learned through the first two steps of community engagement and technical assistance to build out an effective program with community input. And the goal is to provide incentives for community resilience hubs for installed solar and storage systems and connecting them with Ava's managed battery program. So 40% of the 2023-2024 budget surplus has been allocated to this program, and half of that has been allocated to upfront incentives for resilience hubs and Carafera customers. So this was a ton of information. Don't worry, we'll be reminding you and sending periodic updates and providing key steps and key information through every step of the way of this program from start to finish. So this is not the first time that you'll be seeing any of this information. Next slide, Hernando. Wonderful. So what do we expect from you and what can you expect from us? So we really want you as a community to be at the center of this work. We can't build an effective community program without your voices, your experiences, your opinions. And it's through these discussions and through listening to you that we're going to shape the future of this Resilience Hub program. So what we ask for is please give us any of your candid thoughts, feedback, feelings, anything that comes up for you that you want to talk about and that you think would be important for us to know to build out an effective program in the future. And what can you expect from us? From us, you can expect us to be, number one, here for you to advocate for your needs and advocate for what you want and provide that support and answer any questions that come up to you about the program process, the timelines, any kind of questions about moving through the eligibility pathway or accessing incentives. We will be providing our emails and our contact information later on if you have any questions. But we want this to be an open channel for any sort of questions or clarification you may need. Next slide, Hernando. And yeah, it is through our powers combined together, we can build community power to create a successful community-oriented resilience hub program for Alameda and San Joaquin counties. And next slide, Hernando. So now that we've thrown all of that at you, I want to offer a little bit of time for a Q&A. So I know we may have a few questions in the chat. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll take you off mute to ask the questions. So yeah, I notice Susan Silver has a question of explaining what Ava's managed battery program is. And I think Carly, you are best suited for that.
Yes. So currently the managed battery program, so in general, there are a few different connection points we have to that program. I don't want to speak out of turn or get any of the details incorrect. I think for now, what we can release, we can follow up in the webinar notes after this, just in terms of how it relates to this particular program. Because I know the existing program is a little bit separate, so how it feeds in is also still up for design. So I will save that answer to make sure it just clearly articulates that connection process. I'm very sorry, Susan, but I can follow up with you afterwards.
Carly, I believe we have a few more questions. So the next question, is your research assessing Resilience Hub needs only related to solar and energy or across all types of needs?
That is a really great question. In our Resilience Hub research, we are trying to get an understanding kind of the landscape within Ava Community Energy territory, as well as California, and maybe looking as well into certain national models. We are trying to understand kind of that balance. If there are hubs that are very, very focused on the energy infrastructure and are fully built out versus some community hubs that don't necessarily focus as much on energy, but provide a lot of various community resilience resources. So we are trying to kind of get a comprehensive overview of the landscape that exists today. However, because this is a program focused on solar and storage, we are trying to highlight the challenges, the opportunities, the successes of some hubs that have had specific solar and storage experience. So a little bit of both and.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carly. And also just wanted to say that we're sharing sort of a preview of a process that will lead to the creation of a community program. So kind of previewing what these sorts of community programs can look like. I want to answer the next question from Genesis Sanchez, excuse me. So could you talk about the ideal resilience hub that would qualify for this program? I can speak in terms of what, and from a community perspective, what an ideal resilience hub looks like. And maybe Carly, you can speak more towards solar and storage. But I think really a resilience hub, that the way that we're thinking about resilience hubs, it's any kind of, and we will be discussing a definition of resilience later, but a resilience hub is really community trusted organizations, like organizations that provide services to their communities that really, like, there doesn't necessarily have to be currently an energy perspective, but one that provides community support and that is trusted by the community. So really we'll be defining resilience hubs later, but right now, if you like, we have kind of an expansive idea. And also we also want to offer that, we want to make sure that anyone reaches out and applies and talks to Carly and applies for these sorts of incentives. And Carly, I guess I'll pass it to you in terms of whatever you want to add about the specifics around solar and storage and the energy perspective.
Yeah, I would say an ideal resilience hub would, exactly like Ayla mentioned, be community serving, have some kind of resilience operational plan that they either currently have or are intending to develop to support community needs. I will say being able to have the space allowable for an actual solar system, having space for a battery backup, or just generally having the solar and storage space to do the actual installation. The sizing and some of the location requirements, the actual number of hours open for the hub itself, all of these different things will pretty much be taken into consideration when you apply. So I think all of those specifics about the site itself are all being considered when it comes to eligibility. Like I said, the tool will allow us to help hubs figure out if they are the ideal candidate based off of everything I just mentioned. So sizing, the operational plan, intended use, different, functional use, things like that. So that is some of the nitty gritty, but as I said, a lot of this is going to be ironed out when the tool is released for folks to kind of self-screen.
Wonderful. Thanks for that perspective, Carly. Our next question is, will the research be made available? Carly, I think you can speak to that.
Sure. So the current case study report is for Ava Community Energy to consider when developing the actual program itself. I think it's TBD whether or not that research will be public, because it is very specific to this program. We will be letting folks know whether or not that report will be made available to the public. For now, I think it is just for Ava to consider for the actual design of the program.
Thanks, Carly. Our next question from Jordan is, can you describe in what ways labor standards will be incorporated into the program design of these resiliency hubs, such as if prevailing wages will be used for construction work involved, benefits provided, apprenticeship utilization, etc.?
I can speak to that. Actually, Jordan, you were part of the process with us where we advocated for a resolution through the agency on specifically labor standards. And so, yeah, it would be up to us to really continue, to ensure that the needs that labor has in this project moving forward are actualized. And so clearly we are very, very much committed to that. That's why we advanced and led in having that resolution passed in January, I believe it was January of 2024. And so we cannot speak to exactly what the agency is doing, but what we're doing here today is really to talk about getting information from community on what you all want in terms of a resilience hub program and how to define resilience hubs. And then together we can advance moving forward what this project looks like specifically for community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica, for that context. And I want to now go to a question from Margie Lewis. Hi, Margie. So what about the batteries? Are they lithium-based? Is there research happening for more environmentally safe battery options? Pass that to Carly.
Yeah, so these are all really great questions, and I'm really glad we're recording them because as this program is being designed, I think it's really important for Ava to be able to hear what community concerns are, to then be able to understand the actual eligibility requirements. So at this point, yeah, I cannot speak to whether or not like the different types of environmentally safe battery options that would qualify, but I do think that naming that and making sure that that is something that is uplifted is really important. So kind of non-answer in the sense of we will see, but this is kind of the point of these community workshops is to get folks' opinions on what they would like to see in their program design. Same is true to highlight Jessica's point about Jordan's question, same thing with labor standards. If the community is very concerned about this and would like to see this as an aspect highlighted in the program, this is a perfect time to kind of name that. So I'm really glad that we are hearing these points and having this feedback recorded so that we can take this back and highlight the community interest.
Yeah, thanks, Carly. Our next question is from Mickey. Hi, Mickey. So will a storage solar battery build out benefit locations, or are they solely for resilience usage?
I guess I'm a little confused about that question in the sense of, I mean, in general, when these systems are installed, it would, I mean, ideally, obviously benefit the locations in which they are installed just for, you know, everyday use. If it's a question about whether or not the system can be used outside of a resiliency event, I think that depends on how the site itself wants to use that system. So I don't think there's any like operational requirements once the system is installed. So I think that's kind of up to the operational plan for each of the sites.
Wonderful. And if, Mickey, if you want to email directly and maybe if you have any questions that, and anyone, if you want to ask any questions to give a bit more context for your inquiry, feel free to email me. The next question is from Susan. Will the case studies we are researching the comprehensive, oh, no. So I want to actually highlight Susan's, this isn't an ask, but it's a bit more context on the case studies. So we are researching the comprehensive suite of services and programming, including food, disaster preparedness, workshops, et cetera, and bigger and smaller projects, but understanding they're prioritizing solar with storage systems as this is the focus on this project. So thank you, Susan. So add some great context on the case studies. And the next question that I want to, it's from Nikolai Jostep. How will the definition of what a resilience hub is allow for flexibility with each hub? I will start this question, and if Jessica wants to add more context, feel free. But really, I think that this question will be answered through community input. And so, you know, the way that we're approaching is if we want to allow flexibility for and an expansive idea of what resilience hubs could look like, but we really that sort of flexibility and that complexity will be offered through community input. So the definition, we already have a bit of a definition that we'll go over, but that sort of flexibility and what a hub could look like, we will kind of learn that and learn the expansiveness of what hubs are through community input. So Jessica, do you want to add anything up to that?
Yeah, I think it's very simple. We're open to hearing from you on what you define resilience hubs and resilience work as. And, you know, we are committed to advancing, you know, the input from the community And we will only be successful in doing that with your help. So that's the bottom line.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Like I said before, we want all of your thoughts, all of your opinions, because that's how we're going to learn how to create this definition.
Also, Ava,
And
sorry, how are we doing on time for remaining questions?
oh, we're doing perfectly.
Okay.
So yeah, we have plenty of time. So if you have any questions, feel free to add it to the chat. Next question is from Tim. I know that you've had your hand raised for quite a while. So I want to give Tim, if you want to, I took you off, I allowed you permission to talk. So if you want to ask your question.
Oh, well, I don't know whether this was the right time or not to do that, but you did sort of indicate an interest in getting some feedback. I just wanted to reinforce the importance of using high road labor standards and to making sure that we're, through use of local hire provisions, providing benefits and economic mobility to people from low-income communities in the Ava territory. My suspicion is that will be lots of agreement on those points, but it doesn't hurt to reinforce the idea.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Tim. And I think that one thing that I want to also mention is looking a little bit ahead in the next portion of this webinar is that we will be wanting to kind of do a bit of creative thinking and kind of get a sense of what you want to see in a Resilience Hub program. So Tim, if you stay on and we do that sort of creative thinking, we'd love to have you bring that up in that session, just so that we capture that in our notes. But I want to also now highlight Robert's question. So what size are the typical energy storage systems? Is there a design standard where vendors and partners can share to highlight ROI for these systems, or is ROI not the driving factor?
Yep. So I'm pretty sure that the typical energy storage systems will also be released once we have the screening tool available for folks. If there is a design standard that can be shared, we can definitely do that. I'm not quite sure if Ava will be doing that. I think it'll just be on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the site's needs are and how it's sized and what the actual installation possibilities and opportunities are for each individual hub. And then when it comes to the ROI, I don't necessarily know if it is the driving factor. I know that the incentive structure itself is to kind of, help with alleviating those costs at installation and as well as for the overall connectivity of the system. But again, these are really great questions, and we will obviously make sure to have continuous workshops to go through the details of them. For each of these solar and storage sizing questions and eligibility, all of our fall workshops will highlight each of these types of questions when it comes to what is eligible, what isn't, where are the edge cases, timing, where folks are in permitting, all of these very technical limitations or eligibility considerations will be discussed in more depth once the program is designed and the tool is released, probably as soon as September or October.
Wonderful. Thanks, Carly. And our last question that I see so far, and again, we still have some time, so if you have more questions, please, folks, drop it in the chat. But our last question is, if Ava will only support solar with storage, will there be other efforts to build more of a network of organizations who can support resilience hubs for different functions, such as food distribution or emergency preparedness? Carly, I think you were typing an answer in the chat, but I wanted to offer that to you or Jessica, if you want to answer that.
Actually, I'll pass it to Jessica because I was going to type something, but if you had ideas, Jessica, I'd be happy to hear them first.
Yeah, again, I will just reiterate, we're taking your feedback. It's up to you as a community to decide what resilience is and what the needs of resilience hubs in Ava Community Energy Territory need. And so you're creating the definition. And also, I just want to reiterate, we've always been Local Clean Energy Alliance as an organization advocating for energy and climate solutions, and we do see resilience needs beyond energy. And so I just want to reiterate that. And again, in order for this to be successful, we need your support in advancing how you define resilience. Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, like Jessica said, we're kind of starting this program, but we really want to lean into your input and your thoughts to really make this successful. And it's really going to be a collaborative effort and a big haul with you and us, but we want to advocate for what you want to see in a program. So yeah, if anyone has any further questions, I think we covered them all. Thank you for staying on for all of those questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions. Again, we'll be providing contact information at the very end of this presentation. And so now I believe we want to take a bit of a break. So, rest your eyes, take a bio break, have a snack. And our next session after we come back will be the visioning session to discuss and brainstorm what kind of program we can ask for from Ava. And so we're really excited because this is going to be starting this sort of community input on weighing in on the program. And we'll be doing some breakout sessions with some questions and kind of creative thinking on resilience hubs. So please come back. We'll be coming back at noon on the dot. So we'll see you soon. All right, let's come back. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for staying on. We hope the break was energizing and that everyone is ready to dig into the specifics of the core of the work we'll be doing these next few months. So as we mentioned, the work we'll be doing first starts out with a definition of resilience hubs. So we want to have an accurate community-led definition of what resilience hubs are so that we can establish a foundation for us to build out an effective program. And so on this slide, we have Ava's current sort of initial definition of resilience hubs, and we will be defining this with refining and defining it with community input. So the current definition, we want you to consider the possible accuracy or limitations of this. So resilience hubs are physical, community-serving facilities that provide essential services, distribute critical resources during emergencies, and integrate clean energy solutions to maintain operation during power outages. They also serve as year-round community spaces where local residents currently regularly gather. And so, with your help, we want to start refining this definition and adding more complexity to it. Next slide, Hernando. And so with your help, we want to refine this definition. And so here we have two sets of questions. We will be separating you into breakout rooms in a little bit. And we will be assigning each breakout group one set of these questions that we'll be giving you. So the groups that will be assigned resilience landscape questions will be answering the ones on the left. So what resilience hub efforts are happening in your community? What are the current day-to-day resilience needs you currently meet in your community? What are your community or resilience hub needs during a crisis or emergency? During an emergency or grid outage, what needs can you identify to keep your community or resilience hub efforts running effectively? And also, Michael, I know you asked to add these definitions in the chat. We will be, yes, thank you. I was going to say Jen will be offering that definition in the chat and it'll be provided. Next, we have our community visioning questions. So these are about the role resilience hubs could play in your communities in the future. So thinking expansively of what could be offered. So if resilience hub resources were abundant, what would that look like? What are the day-to-day resilience needs you want to meet in your community? and what are the emergency and crisis needs you want to offer your community. And then what resilience services should be considered as part of a hub. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be providing jot boards, which is a virtual post-it board with one question per page. Each group will have their own jot board, and your jot board assignments will be found in the instructions Jen will be providing in a little bit. So there will be a few groups. So again, one set of groups will be offering answers to the landscape questions. Another group will be offering answers to the visioning questions. And we'll be giving you about 20 minutes to discuss these questions. And after that, we'll be asking folks to share out what they learned. And I'll be hopping in and out to check in. Jen from Emerald Cities will be providing time checks to make sure that people move on to the next question. And afterwards, we'll be asking you to share your thoughts or any breakthroughs. So Jen will be posting both the definition, the jot board assignments, and the breakout groups. Make sure that you determine someone who'll be taking notes and capturing your thoughts on the post-its. And yeah, so I'll let folks be broken up into the breakout rooms, and we'll be giving you some time. We'll be releasing you out into the wild. Yeah. Thank you all for coming back. We hope it was a good discussion. And now I want to give a little time for folks to share out what they learned. So feel free to use the raise hand function and we can take you off mute to speak. Or if you would prefer, you can share it in the chat or build off of something that someone said. So I just want to give time for folks. What salient points came up for you in your breakout rooms? What salient point comes out? Is there anything that anyone said that you felt was particularly insightful? And actually, I will pass it to Carly first, since it sounds like you had some insight you wanted to share. And then we'll give other folks the floor. Oh, Carly, you're muted.
Thank you. I was in breakout room 2. Really great, geographically diverse folks. Some current day-to-day needs. I was hearing a lot about like connection to food networks and food insecurity. I was hearing about clothing swaps. I was hearing about some of the CBO, just certain lack of CBO networks in some places and other places that are very resource rich. And the last point that I think I was hearing more about was how some resilience hubs are really feeling the need to bolster networks of resilience hubs, as opposed to just having kind of just being the one-stop shop for their entire community, that a lot of folks are really struggling to kind of hold all of the plates at once, or to kind of just be everything for everyone, that their connection and collaboration with other hubs has proven to be very helpful for their communities. Also learning more about, someone mentioned like now needs versus potential needs, and how, meeting those, trying to balance the immediate versus longer term needs of their community, and making sure that their sites are best prepared for that.
Oh, thanks, Carly. No, I really like that insight about balancing emergency and day-to-day needs, and also that part of like, not every resilience hub can offer everything. So making a network of places that can meet needs collectively. I want to offer, Mickey, I know that I see your hand up. I'd like for you to take, if you want to take the floor and give us some insight.
Sorry, this is just a procedural thing. We did not know what breakout room we were in. So it said breakout room 8, but there was no breakout room. So maybe that needs to be, I don't know, looked at.
No, thank you, Mickey.
Sorry
we had
about
over,
that. Thank you.
No, we had given a lot of breakout rooms just to make sure that folks, we had
Okay.
enough.
Okay,
But
perfect.
that's good. That would be good to know in our feedback form. But yeah, I'd like to pass it. Does anyone from breakout room 1 want to give any insights? Or you can drop it in, or it'd be great for someone from breakout room to drop it in the chat. If I see Emily from breakout group 3 to breakout group 3. So Emily says, really cool to learn about what's happening across different regions from folks holding different pieces and learning about existing resilience efforts as well as needs. Yeah, no, I think as Carly also mentioned, the geographic diversity is super interesting to see in these groups. I also see that Jessica, Michael Kim Eubanks, I don't know if you've, Jessica's encouraging you to speak just because it seems like you had some insight. So if you want to give any insights, yes, I will. All right, Michael, you are up.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Michael. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a local pastor in San Leandro, and we both have been a part of, we've been collecting a resilience network in San Leandro since 2023 or 2022, and working on how our kind of faith communities, physical space can do that work since that time as well. And really kind of appreciated our conversation because our work is really granular and it's really on the ground. And so hearing things about the way that other resilience hubs are developing in other spots, as well as kind of hearing about the issues with kind of electrical connection or electricity connection, are salient for us as we are also looking to update our electrical systems to serve some of our resilient needs and our community. So I really appreciate this conversation and this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael. That was some great insights. I want to point it to something Lorenzo posted in the chat of considering transportation and access and planning resilience hubs. How do people in need get there during an emergency condition? And I think, yeah, no, Lorenzo, I think that's a really great point, is that not all of these resilience hubs are accessible via public transit or may not be in someone's immediate vicinity. So thinking about how do we bridge that gap, that's a really great point. Julia also said that they discussed the importance of hubs being placed in areas that people already go and trust. And I think that is what Local Clean Energy Alliance has been really thinking about and advocating for, is that there's no need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to resilience, that we already see a lot of places that communities trust, and really kind of strengthening that resilience that already exists is super important. Is there anything else that anyone wants to share or come off mute? Yeah. Ooh, I see Bradley, let me allow you to speak, Bradley.
Thanks. I think the one thing I haven't really heard a comment about is I think it's really going to be important to prioritize under-resourced communities and those communities that are most at risk. So in terms of looking at this, I do think that we need to look at that key area. And I think APEN did an interesting study where they looked at how you can do that kind of analysis, spatial analysis of communities at risk and organizations, communities most at risk and most vulnerable. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bradley. And I do agree that we really want to focus also on frontline communities and making sure that those areas, when we think of resilience, that we really focus on those places that really need resilience, and resilience resources. So Susan, I see your hand is up as well. Would you like to share anything? Oh, Susan, do you want to? There we go.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I just again reiterating the network for the need for a network of sites. There's already so many amazing sites doing incredible work, and some of them will never have solar storage, but I call them kind of like resilient spaces. And just some of them offer things like food distribution or growing food, but I think it's important to map out who's doing what, and also not just the sites, but the organizations that are doing this work, and also the importance of capacity building and offering workshops and online resources so that we can really scale up this work. And needing this work like now, I know that this is going to be more into the future, but I do think we need to start looking at like immediately what are the things that we need to build the resilience network.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And I see that you've also added your thoughts in the chat. So it's great to both hear it and see how you kind of something similar that other folks mentioned before about how resilience, that networks are really important when it comes to comprehensive resilience hub offerings and resilience hub support. Julia, I see that your hand is up. Love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just thinking about the connection between climate resilience and economic equity. And so to the extent that there can be high quality job opportunities associated with the development of resilience hubs, I think that's also something we should be paying attention to. We talked a little bit in our breakout room about hubs providing resources on where to find work and possibly even training, particularly, training for high road jobs and climate focused jobs. I think there's a real opportunity there, but I also think there's an opportunity in the construction to think about things like labor standards and inclusive contracting and local hire as well.
Great. No, that's a great point, Julie. And I think that really also dovetails with a lot of stuff that people had mentioned earlier in the first half of like wanting to make sure that there's equitable consideration of labor standards and other considerations when it comes to job opportunities. Jordan, I see your hand up, but I think there's a few questions in the chat that we haven't addressed yet. So I see Nikolai's question Nikolai's point where the group talked about building on food networks in Ramsey County, Minnesota. They're working with their food security team where people are experiencing crisis in terms of issues like food insecurity on a daily basis. And the places they already go to are the places we need to build out to be resilient during disaster. And no, I think that's really great. And really, again, points out that number one, these sorts of networks and this sort of cross-pollination between resilience hubs is super important. And the places that, as we mentioned before, I believe there was in the chat, there was a point that the places that people already go to are resilience hubs. And those are places that could be supported in their resilience efforts. Again, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We just want to make sure that we bring in those places. And I see Jordan, you mentioned in the chat that you really like the definition Ava put out that we shared earlier, and that it's positioned well to be flexible on what essential services and critical resources can be offered. The question is what those will ultimately be, and this feedback session and others will help answer that. That's perfect. Yeah, Ava's current definition is just sort of a jumping off point that we have to then build it out and make it more comprehensive and make it more offer a bit more complexity with community feedback. So thanks for that point, Jordan. And I see also lots of stuff in the chat. So Jean says that they talked about resilience hubs being prepared for 72 hours of continuous power needs, EV charging, communications, medical resources, cooling centers, all of these super great emergency services. I think that's super important, of getting into the weeds and really digging into what emergency services look like. And Susan, again, she talks about building trust and social cohesion with community members. Thanks for pointing that out, Susan. And making sure that community members have, that sort of the time and the space to offer community cohesion, social relationships. I think that's great. Now I'll move to hands. I see quite a few hands here. Jason, I believe I'll go to you first.
Thank you. So we had mentioned it in a little bit late on our breakout group response here, but I was in breakout group 1, and something that we talked about as it relates to the efforts in our community. I live in Oakland, and in Oakland, we have the critical municipal facilities projects or agreement with Ava. Essentially, it's approximately 10 facilities that are building PV arrays as well as battery storage. So talking about this, the aggregated sort of projects or facilities to help support this, for the cities that aren't participating in this work in their region, this could be a strategy for you all. But a couple of the projects are being built on fire stations, and then you have a main public library, and then you have a couple of large facilities like the East Oakland Sports Center in East Oakland. And this was all there was an equity study that was done with Department of Transportation as they were deciding on what facilities that they were gonna add the infrastructure onto. Anyway, just wanted to add that.
No, thank you, Jason. That's great I think I wasn't sure about the complexity and the specifics of what was happening there, so thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I want to reiterate Susan's comments about building, and someone else had, Julia had a comment about trust in the community. And I would just advocate for whatever kind of tools that are offered. I think Carly talked about the word was not assessment, but really like a tool to kind of help potential folks get in to this program that would help them to assess their community trust. I think like it's one thing for me to feel like, oh, the community trusts our space. It's another thing to actually hear the community's feedback on our space. And so I would just advocate for, as a part of being in this program, organizations being able to actually like assess their community trust in a way that actually is helpful.
No, thank you, Michael. I really like that that's really important, because just really getting that direct, concrete community evidence that, hey, this is a space that the community does trust. And I really like that. Now I want to move on to a few questions that were in the Q&A. So there was, Mickey asks, how are hub services coordinated with the Office of Emergency Services in the county? I'll pass that to either Jessica or Carly if they have any insights on that question.
Can you ask the question again?
Sure. So how are hub services coordinated with the Office of Emergency Services in the county?
Oh, I don't think we have the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think it's a little separate from this program, but I do think there are a lot of different advocates on this call. if folks did have suggestions of that to add to the chat, but this particular program isn't coordinated with emergency services.
Yeah. I think, Mickey, there's also, I know that a lot of city governments have specific like climate or resilience staff, but that's, yeah, as Carly said, and Jessica said, that's slightly separate out of this work. In
One-
terms,
I will say is a lot of cities actually don't have staff that focus on resilience. And it's really important to name that the resilience work has really been really on the ground, grassroots mutual aid. Some cities have designated some staff to work on resilience, but not enough. And so that's something that certainly we're starting to see spur as a result of the need. So just to name that.
yeah, thank you for naming that, Jessica. I want to take just the last few questions that are here on in the Q&A. And actually, I think what we'll do is I'll leave these for the Q&A that's at the end of the session. And then, because I want to move on in terms of passing it on so that we can talk more about what's next. So thank you all for sharing. This was a really rich discussion. And we're excited to kind of bring these into our initial thoughts on how to improve the Resilience Hub definition and think expansively of what a program could look like. And so we'll be sharing these job boards in a follow-up email after this meeting so you can have a reference of what you discussed. And so next slide, Hernando. I'll pass it on to Carly to talk about what's coming up next and how to spread the word. Next slide, Hernando.
Awesome. So what can folks expect now? So we are going to be hosting more of these kinds of community feedback workshops in person. We will be hosting one in Oakland in late May and one in Stockton in early June. So if you know of local hubs or resilience advocates that would like to share their feedback kind of one-on-one in a more personal setting, please let us know so we can do direct outreach. The resilience readiness tool, as I've mentioned before, and the application will be released very soon. We are hoping to have the tool ready for folks to use mid-summer. And as a reminder, interested hubs should contact me if you do want to screen your site for eligibility for TA services or for the incentive program. We will be screening sites until mid-2026, and like I mentioned before, potentially beyond, depending on the interest. So if you're curious now but want to learn more, definitely attend our future workshops and reach out to us. And throughout the program, we will be doing community engagement and outreach. So if you'd like to set up introductions to the program, definitely reach out to Ava. Next slide. So for updates on our work, look out for some email blasts, invitations, and newsletters from LCEA. Please share these communications with your networks if you think they would benefit from learning more. And for us to create a program that best serves the community, we understand that having an accessible through line to constructive and honest feedback is really essential. So we did want to emphasize that open line of communication with our team. If you have any lingering thoughts, if you want, to just keep adding to those job boards, feel free to. If you have feedback on the workshops themselves, the content, the discussions, yeah, feel free to contact Ayla.
Next slide, Hernando, please. Yeah, so now I wanted to give a little more time for a final Q&A. We'll maybe start with a few of the questions that are in the Q&A section. But thank you all so much for staying on for the whole ride. We really appreciate your wisdom, your input, your creativity. Really, again, we can't do this without you. So I guess if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. And we'll start with some of these questions here. So how are organizations funding these projects, for example, in San Leandro? I don't know if Carly has some insight on the funding landscape, if we know that already.
I'm not super sure. I was going to also invite Jessica to potentially give feedback to that. I know that, this program is about funding specifically for solar and storage incentives and technical assistance for those in AVA territory, including San Leandro. So, this is a great program to participate in, but Jessica might have more insight into other funding opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing I want to uplift is that, we recognize that resilience work and resilience hub needs are very under-resourced. Again, really naming that it's really people powered and oftentimes very much based on our, people powered donations versus, actual monies from government and agencies, which is why we do this work, is to really bridge the gap between community needs and the agencies that serve our communities. And so, this conversation today really reflects that, and that we have an opportunity, to really influence Ava Community Energy, other community choice programs, to see the work that community is doing, to hear from Resilience Hub practitioners, be it faith-based, community-based organization, grassroots mutual aid, that this work is really about our community survival. We have been inundated with so many crises, and we want to see our communities be successful in providing the services that are needed on the ground, whatever the need is. And so I do think that we have a really important opportunity here. So I do invite you to stay connected with the local Clean Energy Alliance and Emerald Cities Collaboratives. We do a lot of work to advocate so that we can get the resources we need for our communities and the resilience work that we do. And this includes funding. It's very important that, we ensure that these services meet the need, and that our communities are successful, because we know we've been hit hard in different ways, and we know that this is going to continue to be happening in our communities. So thank you so much. We'll be in touch about that.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, for uplifting that. I want to take on the next question in the Q&A. So this person said, I would like to know what the baseline is for resilience that this program with Ava is designed to support. So, sure, solar and storage, but for what? EV charging, emergency response communications, connections with emergency services, keeping a refrigerator on site after a grid outage, like at the 81st Street Library. So which components of resilience and for whom? I'll start answering, and then if Jessica or Carly wants to add more. But really, again, I think the thing that we want to drive home here is that we want to know, like, what is your baseline? What sorts of resources do you want to support in your resilience hubs? Yeah, again, like maybe you want solar and storage, but what are other energy or non-energy needs that you have? Ideally, what could you be offering to your community? What do you need support in offering now? And, for example, like the 81st Street Library is a great example of a refrigerator that could run when the grid is out. But like, are there other places that want to offer that? But could we offer even like longer time that these refrigerators could operate? So I want that's a question that I want you as resilience hubs and as resilience practitioners to answer yourselves. What would be your baseline? And to let us know. Because we want to know what the community's baseline is. And I'll pass it to Jessica if you want to add anything to that.
I don't have anything else to add other than, yeah, I think, continue thinking about what your needs are in the community. And, we want to, with you, advance and advocate to meet those needs. And so that's really what these conversations are about. Thank you.
I also really want to highlight that the point of the baseline for resilience, of the definition that we're creating here, is going to inform the program itself. But the specifics of how a site operates, whether it wants to be a food distribution hub, if it wants to be a gathering space during an outage, if it wants to be any other thing you can think of, that's not actually, not that it's not up to AVA, but that is, AVA just wants to support the actual site itself and being able to provide those resources. So if you yourself feel like you want to provide those services for the communities that have the least amount of access or that are most impacted, that should be included in your application. The way and the plan that you describe the type of system, the type of storage that is best fit for how your site already runs or how you would like it to run in the future, those are the kinds of applications that we want to be a part of this program. So to kind of, backpedal a little bit, that baseline is very much open for you all to define and to apply for. So we would love to have those kinds of sites a part of the program. We just want to make sure that the solar and storage aspects are best fitted for the types of emergency services you want to provide. And if all of those kind of like check those boxes, and if you feel like your site is, ready to serve your community in all those different ways, amazing. You might as well get an incentive for it. And that's pretty much how we want this program to support what is already being provided in each of these communities.
Yeah, thank you, Carly. And I think I also want to uplift something that Mickey said in the chat of identifying the basis of what a good location is, the baseline of what a good location is essential, and broken down by what that location provides. So again, like resilience hubs are not a monolith. Resilience hubs do offer a diversity of services, and we just want to understand what are those services that are offered now that might look different. A faith-based organization might look different from a senior center, which might look different from, a youth center. And so just really understanding what is an expansive idea of what can be provided and what is already there. I want to also highlight something Dave put in the chat. Hi, Dave. So sounds like you need municipal and county level resilience hub definitions baseline along with coordination protocols within Ava's territory. It won't do to have the only three food distribution sites in Oakland, for instance. Yeah, we definitely are looking at we also want to look at what's happening across the county as well, both in San Joaquin and in Alameda County. So definitely will be a very coordinated effort. Michael, I see your hand is up, but I'll allow you to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I'm Michael Gold. I'm an officer and director of Albany CERT, Inc., which is the nonprofit that supports Albany's Community Emergency Response Team. I'd like to answer one of the questions you just asked, the sort of the non-traditional or what else didn't we think of stuff, which I thought I heard that between the lines of your question. And the what else didn't we think of stuff is there are pop-up resources that are not connected to any building whatsoever, but that, for example, we have one prototype pop-up hub. We'd like to build two more. We've demonstrated solar and storage, communications by radio and information resources, whether paper posters or in multi-language in a computer. That's what a pop-up hub can be. I'd like to switch gears to the community centers in Alameda County. These are almost all uniformly publicly owned facilities. They perform multiple hub roles. I'm just going to use Albany as an example. I don't know every town, although I've certainly been to a bunch of community centers. In Albany, we would expect to have shelter. We would expect to have a distribution of food and water when that food and water becomes available, using a driveway to the parking lot or another drive-through area immediately adjacent to the community center. We have communications. There's a radio room there. We have opportunities for information distribution. There's a library well stocked with disaster prep materials there. I'm just using Albany Community Center as a publicly owned facility that really would benefit very greatly from storage and generation and charging stations. Another site in Albany that's publicly owned that we're considering is Giltract Farm. I'll just mention the potential for drive-through resource distribution, as well as information, communications, and power. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to follow up. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Michael. And I think this also dovetails somewhat with Susan's question in the chat of whether Ava would offer this opportunity to just community-owned sites, but also municipal ones. One point that I want to make is that Ava already does have a critical municipal facilities program. I can offer a link to that in our follow-up email. So this program is somewhat of a twin of that program that already exists. Of now we're thinking of what can we offer to community-based sites that are operating as resilience hubs. And so I just wanted to uplift that. And yeah, Dave also, yeah, I think Dave, I think this is actually a good point of, you know, we have private facilities like churches or veterans halls that, yeah, like this is exactly the kind of program for those sorts of facilities. Jessica, do you want to offer some insights?
Yeah, I just want to name the reason why we've advocated to this point and also, are at pretty much at the center of this whole conversation is because the agency does have a municipal critical facilities program. And at the time we were really saying, hey, what about community trusted sites? What about, our faith-based churches, for example, and our CBOs and, our community centers. And so this conversation really is to design a program specifically for our community trusted spaces. So I'm very excited that we're having this conversation, and I look forward to hearing more from everyone moving forward and doing this, designing this program together. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. And I just want to note that we are 1 minute over time. So next slide, Hernando. I felt like all of those questions, wonderful questions. Thank you for asking them. And I felt like it sped by. But thank you all so much for staying on for the whole ride. We really appreciate your wisdom. And if you have any questions or if you want more information on any part of the program, here is my email and also Carly's for any kind of questions on engagement with resilience hubs or the definition workshops, or if there are hubs that you want to point us to, I will be here. Carly will be the one to answer any questions on technical assistance. And we will be sending out a feedback form with questions on your thoughts, opinions, anything that came up for you today. Please take a minute to answer those questions. I know folks had some insights because this will be really helpful for our future in-person workshops. And yeah, thank you all. And yeah, thank you all so much. And we're excited to keep building with you.